Hello and welcome to my review about the GoPro Hero 6. Today we're gonna have a look at how the camera behaves in different situations, and also I'm gonna talk about the costs, if it's really worth upgrading from the GoPro Hero 5 to the Hero 6, and yeah, so let's get started.
This is who you were meant to be. This is you. No more hiding, no more hiding, no more hiding, no more hiding.
First I have to say, my camera, where is it? My GoPro is 1 year old, pretty much right now, about 10 months. And I bought it new, so at this point I gotta already say that you should really not buy a used GoPro, because you never know what's happened to the GoPro. For example, mine has taken some damage on the edge, so I wouldn't recommend buying a used GoPro. First, about the functions of the GoPro. The Hero 6 Black is able to record at 4K in 60 frames per second, but also in 1080p at 240 frames a second, which lets you use really nice slow motions. It's also capable of doing time lapses and taking photos in 12 megapixels. The GoPro is also waterproof. You can go down 10 meters, I think. It's also dust resistant. You have the capability of commanding the GoPro with your language. So if I say GoPro start recording, I've enabled the option in the menu, the GoPro will start recording. Or if I say GoPro take a picture, the GoPro will take a picture, which is pretty nice, and I have to say I've used it several times now. And yeah, so the GoPro just turned on. I'm shutting it back down now. So first, the dimensions of the GoPro. So the GoPro is 62 times 44 times 32 millimeters, and it's actually really compact. Like if I'm holding it like this, it fits in my hand super easily. So yeah, it's nice to wear on a helmet, especially because it only weighs about 120 grams. So yeah, it's also not too heavy for wearing it on any conventional mountain bike helmet, or it's also enough if you fasten the GoPro with these gluing on pieces. So, coming to the action shots. Most of the times, as a mountain biker, I record at 1080p in 60 frames per second. Simply because there is fast motion in mountain bike shots, and using like 24 FPS or 30 FPS would give me that kind of shutter or ghosting I don't want to see in action shots. I always shoot with Pro Tune enabled, simply because the bitrate is a bit higher and the quality of the video will be much better. Furthermore, the GoPro Hero 6 has a really good digital stabilization. The shots are smoothened out efficiently. Compared to a Hero 4 or a Hero 5, the stabilization is much better. Okay, let's talk about doing cinematic shots with a GoPro. So I generally use 4K 30 FPS if I'm shooting cinematic shots, but also for the slow motion I go with 1080p 120 frames, simply because if you shoot in 240 frames, you'll see the bad scaling, and also the bitrate isn't quite high enough to like have a high quality picture in shooting at 200 frames, so I usually go with 120 frames. That's more than enough. And yeah, coming to the settings, so I always set my color profile to flat. Of of course, with ProTune enabled. The white balance is set to auto, simply because I think the GoPro does pretty well on like regulating the white balance. The sharpness, I always set the sharpness to low, because the sharpness can be added later on in the post-production, and that's much better than actually recording like in sharp and losing detail, maybe. I would also recommend setting the maximum ISO to 800, not to 1600, like it's preset from the GoPro factory, because recording in 1600 really gives the image a lot of grain and noise. So to reduce that, I would always go with 800 as a max ISO. The GoPro holds up really well. I couldn't see any damage done to the internals of the camera or to the ports after 1 year of using it. The GoPro has taken some real hard beating and I can't see any damage. Also, the software is buttery smooth. The GoPro doesn't get stuck. And comparing it to, for example, SJ7000, which costs about 90 euros, you really have to say that the GoPro looks very good. And also that's because of the price tag. Like, it's 7 times as pricey, but looking at the frame quality, you really have to say that maybe you have to overthink buying a cheap China action cam instead of going big with a GoPro. Also, from my point of view, the GoPro HERO 5 would have done the job for me as well, because I don't use the function to record in 4K 60. You are very limited recording in 4K 60 because the field of view only is available in wide. And doing cinematic shots in 4K 60 would please me a lot more if I could set it on linear, but there's no option to do that. In 1 year, I only noticed the GoPro crashing software-wise 1 time, so there's no problem either there. The touchscreen of the GoPro was improved from the HERO 5, but also from the HERO 4. It's much more responsive, you don't have to press as hard, and also you can easily use it with gloves. One thing about the GoPro app, so the GoPro app is really helpful, especially if you got the GoPro on your helmet and you quickly want to dial in the angle of the GoPro. You can change the settings via the application, and I really have to say I've used it quite a few times actually, and I wasn't disappointed. The only thing I have to tell you is that the application or your mobile phone won't connect with the GoPro if your GoPro battery is below 20%. That's been my test, my experience with the GoPro HERO 6. I hope you liked it, and we'll see each other in the next video.